Okay, I think we are live. Let me double check. Just make sure I can actually see it. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, okay. I think this is working. Very nice, very nice. Let me now make sure I can actually hear myself. Yes, I do remember you. How's it going, everybody? Thanks for popping in. Great to see you guys. Okay, so I have confirmed that I confirmed that I am live and I can see the comments. So we are good to go. So this is what we're going to be doing. As you can see, I have here the sword in this nice little package that we're going to be giving away. Yes. I took a picture of it yesterday. Here it is in here. That is how it is going to get mailed off. And then what I'm going to do, and this is what I've done for the last, I think 4 of them now, is I have a little hat here that I will be drawing names out of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the videos, find the people that were interested, write down their names, put them into the hat, give it a little shake, pull a name. So that is what we're going to be doing. And I want to make sure that, yes, this stays open. Goodness gracious, phone. Work. Oh no. My visibility to the chat is gone. This is terrible. Oh no. Oh, here we go. Let's try this one. All right, can I see the chat on here? Well, oh no. Sadly, I'm going to be blind for a second. Well, we'll just continue on. We're really here for the sword, yes? Of course. All right, so let me go to my channel real fast. And then we're going to go over here. Let's see. Let's go to our videos first. We'll look at this
Hello,
one.
ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Emblem Arms.
And then we're going to go to the comments. And I was hoping that I would be able to... Well, people in the comments, I'm sorry. For some reason, I'm not able to see anything that you guys are saying. I guess this is how you know it's live. Because half the stuff isn't working. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start scrolling. The goal was to chat with you guys while I was doing this. And hopefully, we will get to that point. I'm going to try closing my YouTube app on my phone. See if that works. Start closing random things. In case you guys are wanting to know why on earth I'm late, part of it is always technology is being silly. And part of it is that I overslept. I was up late doing some editing. And then also I was filming something, kind of like a fun skit to send to another YouTuber by the sword that he may end up putting at the back of one of his videos. So hopefully that ends up being a fun thing. Now let's see if I can get to the chat again. Okay, we're in the chat. Okay. Now phone, this time don't be obnoxious. Okay, by the sword, great to see you guys. Yes, I will. Oh my goodness. Yes, I will give you access by the sword to the video. Apparently, I need to do that. Yes, I will do that right after this. Okay, so in this video, I'm trying to remember if I told people they just needed to comment or if they had to say they were interested or not. I think I told people they just needed to comment because I ended up getting a whole bunch of comments more than normal, but very few people saying that they were interested. So I think what I'm going to do is for this particular one, I think I'm just going to put people in unless they specifically said they didn't want it. I think is what we're going to do. So we are going to go with that. And then, so what I'm going to do is if you guys left a comment in the main video, I'm going to put your name in. If you guys left a comment on the short, I'm going to put your name in again. If you guys happen to be here on the live stream and are also wanting the sword, then I will put your name in a third time to give you guys the best possibilities. So, yes, that is what we will be doing. Okay, so first we'll put in Doc on holidays. And for some of these names, I might shorten them down a little bit just so that everyone's name is roughly the same size. Brian Gates. One of these comments was that they ordered a sword. And I always find it very fun when someone says they're ordering a sword because I'm like, oh, yes, that's so cool. I was hopefully able to help somebody out and give them an idea of something that would be good or not. And so on one hand, I'm always excited. And then on the other hand, I'm always like, oh, man, well, the one I got was good. I really hope the quality control is good on these and that they get a good one. Although most of the swords I've done reviews on, other people have also done reviews on. So I always like looking at those too to see if we have similar things to say or not. And so then if they also say it's good, I'm always like, okay, phew, I'm not the only one. Other people also enjoy it and think it's good. So that one was the Glamdring one. And there's a few different people who did reviews on that. So, and from what I saw, everyone thought it was a very good sword for the price. Yes. Okay, buy the sword. Thanks so much. This guy, okay, I'm pretty sure this guy did watch the video because at one point I said that I was not going to do overseas. Partially because, so this is a funny thing. Once upon a time, I sent something to a YouTuber to test out. This is before I was making YouTube videos. And he was overseas. And I was like, hey, I'm going to send you this, this, and this. Are we good to send those? Like, is there any weird laws in your country or anything like that? He's like, oh, yeah, you're good to send them. And I sent them, and half of the stuff got held up, and at whoever their post office people are, and got confiscated, and they never got them. So after that, I was like, all right. I'm not sure if you guys want me to say each name as I write it out. Half of these names I'm not going to be able to pronounce. Drawn Spy. Stace. JoJo Gaming World. People in the chat, I guess if you wanted to real fast also comment on the short in case you didn't to get that extra shot, I mean, you might as well, right? Also, I'm gonna laugh so hard because I'm kind of trying to write fast. I'm gonna end up writing this I'm just double checking here and spelling. I'm gonna end up writing this. I'm gonna pull it out of the hat and I'm like, what on earth did I write? And then just for the people watching who are also, because I did have one person ask, like, how on earth does this work? How do you actually, how do people get in contact with you? What I'm going to do is I am going to, when I pull the winner, I'm going to show everyone. I'm going to, hopefully they end up watching this at some point so they know if they won or not. And then I'm going to put my email. I'll probably put it in the comments or in the description of this as soon as it finishes rendering, and then that person can just look it up real fast, shoot me a message, and then let me know where they want to send it, and then I will send it to them. And then what I ask typically is that when you get it, feel free. I would appreciate it if you took a picture and sent it to me again through email. That way, I know that you got it, but then also I can make a little post, and everybody else knows that you got it. So yes. Dude, thanks for coming to check out the stream while you're on your lunch break. I appreciate it. Also, hopefully you get a weekend at some point and you don't have to work the whole time. Because there are days, I coach gymnastics, but there are days where we have competitions on the weekends, and so it's just you go to work and then you work the whole weekend and then you come back to work the next day. And on some of the competition days, those are very long days. Some of them. Ryan, Cody, Mike, Nate, oh, Peanut Butter Boy, this guy. So funny. So Peanut Butter Boy is one of the, I'll let you guys in on a little secret for the people who are watching the stream. My brother also happens to have a small blossoming YouTube channel, you could say. And Peanut Butter Boy actually had been subscribed to him longer than he'd been subscribed to me. Much longer by the sound of it. And so when he found out that we were brothers, he was just ecstatic. So I screenshotted a message where Peanut Butter Boy asked me to say hi to my brother, so I did, and then he said hi back, and so I told him. He sounded pretty happy about that. So yes, my brother also happens to have a YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is obviously a little bit different than mine. He wasn't really into swords like I was. Although I always tried to get him to play swords with me when we were younger. That sounded wrong. For people in the chat, I have a question for you guys. So, well, I just put up a video about what I look for in a budget sword, and what I want sword makers to start doing with their swords. So, I would love if you guys end up watching that video, I would love for you guys to let me know in the comments what you guys look for in budget swords, or what you guys hope budget sword makers do, especially if you guys have swords or use swords, because some of these sword companies, they're doing their first iteration of swords, like Romance of Men, for example. They just barely did their first iteration of swords, and so so they're gonna do their second iteration coming pretty soon. They actually just launched the 2.0 version of their Dragon Whisper longsword, which they changed their pommel, and I don't know why they did that, because their first iteration pommel was the best pommel out of their whole bunch. But anyways, the whole point of that video is since these makers are starting to do their second iteration of swords, they're not going to know what improvements to make unless we actually tell them the improvements to look for. So that was basically the whole premise of my video, is like where I think they should allocate their money to make good swords, and like the order that they should spend things on. So yes, I would love to know if some of those things were just me things, or if other people were thinking the same thing, or And then, in case you guys are wondering what my lineup looks like, I actually have an unboxing video that I am currently working on editing. It is unboxing 2 more Romance of Men European swords, the Aquila, which the whole time I pronounced Aquila. That's going to be so embarrassing, because I think Aquila sounds better. But then after the fact, I went and looked up how it's pronounced, and it is Aquila, which I found out is Latin for eagle, which is why it has like an eagle laser etched into the pommel. So, yes, I have almost all of the Romance of Men European swords at this point. The odd dad. Actually, we'll just we're not gonna put him in because he actually is my dad. Another fun thing. And I don't think he wants the sword that much. And if he did want swords, I could just give him a sword. But I appreciate that he watches my stuff. That's very nice of him. I doubt he's going to watch the live stream. He's going to be like, Luke, I don't have an hour's worth of time to watch you write down stuff. All right, I'm just going to check comments real quick. Oh, nice. Yeah, by the sword, that actually would be a good panel conversation. And the whole reason I started thinking about that too, like what I'm looking for in a budget sword, is because of one of the Fidestisen swords that I got. It was actually so funny because is Zach still in here? So Zach Swords, he's been a subscriber for a little bit, and he was I think he was subscribed since I did my Fidestisen Crusader longsword video, which has been, oh, that was a hot minute ago. But that was that was the only sword where I was like, no, I do not recommend it in any way. This thing is a piece of crap. And I was like, we're just gonna destroy it now. And because for some reason I had a really hard time cutting with it. And it's so funny because people will watch that video and they're like, you just suck at cutting. I'm like, okay, to be fair, I did really suck on those days, but I don't know if it was a me thing. I think it was the sword thing, because you guys probably see that I have a bazillion swords, and okay, not a bazillion, but I have way more swords than the average person does, and I've cut with way more swords than the average person has, and so there are definitely times where I can tell it's like, okay, this is me not doing a good job, but then there are also times where I can tell it's like, okay, for some reason this sword is not working. And part of the reasons that you can tell that is because maybe you happen to be cutting on a day where you have 5 swords and the other 4 swords are working great, but that one isn't for some reason, which is what was happening with that one. And so I was like, we're just going to destroy it. And I thought it was going to be really easy to destroy, and it did bend a little bit pretty quickly, but then it bent back into shape kind of on its own while we were just throwing it. And so everyone who's seen that video is like, wow, that thing looks really durable. And to be fair, I also think I'm also impressed at the durability of it. Anyways, totally off topic tangent. So I made that video, and Zach was like, "Oh, I have one of their arming swords. You should test that out." And so I went and looked it up. I was like, you know what? That doesn't look that expensive. And Zach also did a video where he cut with it, and it was a pretty clean cut. And I was like, all right, well, we'll give it a shot. And so I got it, and it's actually a pretty good little arming sword. I think it's way better than the Crusader longsword. The only issue that I have with it, or the only thing I wish that they would improve with it, is on mine. I don't know, Zach. You can talk about if yours is the same or not. But the leather on the handle, the leather on the grip, feels really thin and moves around just a tiny bit. And I was like, oh man. And then they also included some belt loops and a belt and things like that. I'm like, why on earth did they include belt loops and a belt? Why did they spend extra money on that if they could have improved their grip? And I was like, maybe sword. I don't know if sword makers are thinking about, what areas are important to improve or not. But oh my gosh, my pen died. All right, hold on. We have a pencil. So I was like, I'm just gonna make something real quick and tell people the order of what I would consider the order of operations. Just making sure I didn't miss anybody here. All right, there is a chance. Last time, one of the times I did this, I used a pencil. I actually think I used this pencil. And the name did not show up super well, but we were eventually able to see it. So now that we are using a pencil, this could, in fact, happen again. And then, oh yeah, By the Sword, if you're still in here, I also watched... Actually, you know what? This is great. I should totally do this. Last night, I watched the stream by the Sword. That's actually the real reason I'm late, is because I stayed up late watching that 3.5-hour stream, and then I overslept. So it's actually By the Sword's fault that we're all late. Just kidding. It was a good stream. I couldn't put it down. I have no self-control. But one of the topics that they talked about on there was the idea of intellectual property and certain makers copying certain designs, how people feel about that. And then it's funny because I was thinking about making a video about that. I've been thinking about that for a couple weeks. And then Scalagrim also made a video about that. And it was funny because I think he was specifically talking about the company of the sword that I'm giving away today. So I was like, maybe I should also make a video about how I feel about this. But this is all I'm going to say. This is all I'm going to say about this, okay? So hopefully nobody gets upset at me. But I just think it's funny how some people will say, hey, look, I copied this museum piece. And then they get mad if somebody copies them. And yes, I understand that there's a difference of copying a piece of someone who's dead and copying a piece of someone who's alive. But I also think it's funny when someone is like, I spent all this time copying this piece. Look at that. And now nobody can copy my work ever. It's like, you caught your work by copying. I don't know. Listen, I could understand that people do not want their work to get copied. But dude, also going back to the stream from yesterday that By the Sword was on or did. It was with a bunch of really good people, by the way. It was with Andy from DLA Tracks Blades. It was with Gargoyle Blades, Matt Jensen, Kai from, I don't remember his YouTube channel, but I actually subscribe to it and watch his stuff. And Alien Tude was there, so John was there, obviously, from By the Sword. So yeah, a lot of big hitters there. It was fun. They were talking about Japanese style swords. David, how's it going, bro? Great to see you. I just wrote this name down and then I had to double check. I'm like, is that the name? Edge Therapy? That is hilarious. That is a great name. Well, it's a very difficult name. I apparently have to concentrate a lot on this name. What in the chicken nuggets is this? DIJKSTRA. Yes, this is the invigorating content I'm sure you guys all have subscribed for. Me looking at a screen and writing down stuff. Also, one question that I would love to ask the audience. Whoa, Armored Sweatpants, great to see you. One question that I would love to know from everybody here is if there is a specific sword that you would like to see reviewed or tested. I did have somebody say that they wanted to see apparently there is another Aragorn Ranger sword that is on the sword buyer's guide form, made by, I cannot remember who it's made by, but there's another one that looks an awful lot like the Aragorn Ranger sword is apparently functional, and the price didn't look that bad either. It was like $270, and so somebody pointed that out to me and was like, oh hey, there's another one of these. I'd really love to know how it stacks up against the other Aragorn Ranger swords that you have. And so it's like, that's so funny that I went and looked it up. I'm like, yeah, I probably am gonna have to get that, because I've done, I've already showed three different Aragorn Ranger swords on the channel. Might as well do a fourth. Oh yes, Iron Wolf. Yes. Yeah, see? Someone already knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm like, oh man, another. I mean, I do love the Aragorn Ranger sword. So, just make sure I didn't miss anybody. So yes, if you guys have any John Parr. What the heck? Oh, that's so funny. Because in one of my videos, I don't know if you guys know this. On my videos, I will often say a different name, and I think that's kind of fun because of I really enjoy the TV show Psych. I think that's very funny, and just how he always introduces himself or Gus as something different. I was like, that's kind of fun. I want to do that. But one of the ones I did was Robert Parr, which I think is the name of the alias of the guy who plays Mr. Incredible. So it's like, John Parr, what the? We're basically cousins. So funny. Gargoyle, I'm putting you in here if you happen to be in this chat or not. Hey, freak. You guys want to know something funny? Okay, it does make me happy to see a freak in the comments, because he he was one of the guys who 3 months ago or 4 months, however long ago it was, that I started doing shoe cutting tests. He was one of the guys who made me do it, because on he was one of the guys who left the comment saying, "Why aren't you wearing shoes?" And I was like, all right, we're gonna start doing shoe testing now. Thea K Spud, is that how you pronounce it? I see that you are in the chat as well, so you'll get put in twice. Theekspud? Is a Theekspud a thing? Ooh. Archbishop of the Noodle. Goodness gracious. Yes, David, I did see that Romance of Man put a fishtail on the Dragon Whisper. I am. How do you feel about that? Because my thought on that was, okay, so I've used their Windlash, which has the fishtail pommel on it, and for me, I don't know if everyone's fishtail pommel is like this, but there's some sharp points on there, so it's not as comfortable as their Scent Stopper pommel. Their Scent Stopper pommel was so comfortable, it was so good. And so then they changed out the pommel of the only sword that was perfect, in my opinion, because it's really hard to do. Two of their swords have a wheel pommel, and it's really hard to do a nice wheel pommel, in my opinion, because they have to be tapered correctly, and you want the handle spaced correctly. It's hard to get one that feels nice to use. And so I think it's funny that they duplicated the wheel, and I talked about this a little bit in the last video I did, but they duplicated the wheel pommel, which in my opinion is not their strongest pommel, and then they got rid of their Scent Stopper pommel, which in my opinion was by far the best pommel. So I don't know. And I wonder, because we've talked about this before, but what we are, I think what most people believe is happening, and which I think is probably happening, is that the sword makers in China, they're basically buying parts from like there's a company that's making fittings, probably like pommels. There might be one company that's making pommels and one company that's making cross guards. But there's at least one that's making fittings, there's one that's making handles, there's one that's making blades, and then these sword makers are going to these companies and buying the parts and then assembling them, which is why we're seeing a lot of different sword makers with similar fittings or similar blades or something like that, but the swords are not exactly identical. So I'm assuming, because one of the things that I've seen a lot of was this 3D printed handle that's hexagonal. And let me see, actually, do I have any in here? No, I do not. They're all out in the other room. But, so I'm trying, Fedestison has it on their Crusader Longsword. Romance of Men has it on the Dragon Whisper. They have it on the Windlash. Swordier has it on their upgraded 20A. I'm sure it's on, I think Ronin Katana has it on one of theirs as well. But the two ones from Romance of Men come with the same wire wrap, and then the other ones have either a different wire wrap or they don't have a wire wrap at all. So I think Romance of Men is going in after the fact and adding in that wire wrap. So to me, I'm curious, like, if they're going to make these different options for buying their swords, like with different pommels and things like that, I don't know why they don't just make an option where you don't have the wire wrap. I think that's an option that they should do. If you could either get their sword with the wire wrap or without the wire wrap. Because I think for the Dragon Whisper longsword, for me, and again, this is just personal preference, for me the wire wrap is the only thing that holds the Dragon Whisper longsword from being the perfect budget longsword. Something I've learned about myself doing this, it is very hard for me to talk and write at the same time. The Polish Saber. All right, I will make a mental note. Yeah, I'll have to be honest, I haven't done too much with sabers, because the more recent styles of sword historically, like swords from like 1700s and onward, don't interest me as much. So I haven't done a whole lot with sabers. But to be fair, I probably shouldn't make any judgments on them until I try them out a little bit. Zach, I like your question about which Aragorn sword I like better. So personally, to me, I do like the Swordier one a little bit better, just because it is so close to the movie replica. I don't know if it's not, I wouldn't call it more functional, and actually the movie replica is arguably a little bit less functional because they have added weight onto the crossguard for no real reason other than aesthetics, which I do think it looks nice. So the Ronin Katana one, they take off some of that weight, and that's actually, it looks exactly like the crossguard that is on the Dragon Whisper. Those crossguards look, actually, do I have one in here? Do I have it in here? So this is the one from Ronin Katana, and you can see that this is pretty much the exact crossguard that, let me see if I can pull this out. This one is in the bird type. So you can see that this is essentially the exact same crossguard that is on the Dragon Whisper longsword. And on the movie replica and on the Swordier one, there's like this little extra thing right here. I don't even know what you would call it. So it adds extra weight. So the Ronin Katana one is probably a little bit more functional in that sense. I would just, if you want something that's more functional, you could go that route. I would just confirm with them that you're getting a peened one. Because at one point they were making ones that were threaded apparently. Although I think actually mine is peened. I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. Apparently Ronin Katana is very good at hiding peens on some of their swords. But I think mine is peened. which was my only worry about that one originally, because I didn't want a threaded version. All right, let me just make sure. Let me write some names real quick. Whoa. C. Brigdman, you're also in the chat. How's it going? Oh, look, here's the comment about his Iron Wolf Ranger sword. We were just talking about this. All right, let me write like 2 names real quick before I look at any more comments, because ooh, wrong way. Werewolf. I should have brought scissors. I did not. So we're just going to tear these and hope for the best. Goodness gracious. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this. This is a trick that I learned in elementary school. Yes. Just try to fold it along. This will totally work. Oh, yeah. All right, let's take a look at some comments while we're ripping this to pieces. Still waiting for you to face a bottle that's armed. Oh, the AK Spud. Okay. Yes, I cut in sandals, Florida style. Yeah, I mean, I think honestly the move when you're cutting is to just not hit your foot. I think that's what they did historically too, is they just tried to not hit their foot. I mean, okay, there were people who were wearing Sabbatons or things like that, but for the most part, I don't think people were. And if you look at like what the Roman military was wearing, when they were wearing sandals. Mothman versus Jersey Devil in a duel. Who's winning? You guys tell me. Okay, yeah. If you have some interesting pictures that predate the romance of men's swords, I would be interested to see that. Yes, my swords are literally just all over the place. And right now, I don't know how well you guys can see. So, in here, this is under my stairs. So in the house that we have, they originally closed off this area and there was nothing in here, and so I just opened up this wall, and then I put a bookcase in front of it, like we drywalled it, then put up some of these like little foam things, and then we put a bookcase in here, so it's like kind of hidden, so people don't immediately recognize that there's something back here. And so then I just have my little recording studio and a whole bunch of swords back here. I definitely need to find better ways to store them. That is also something that sometimes people will comment on, like, your swords are just all over the place. I can't take it. Yes. It's also a little aggravating for my wife. And then occasionally we'll have people come over for who knows what. Sometimes neighbors are dropping stuff off or whatever. And then they walk in, they're just like, whoa, that is a lot of swords. And then usually their first question is, do you use them for anything? I'm like, yes. Yes, I do. Oh yes, I am familiar with the APOC tactical swords. I have never used one. But I would definitely be down to try some of those out. I will tell you, going back to the Aragorn Ranger Sword by Iron Wolf, I did reach out, and I was like, hey, I've done a bunch of videos on Aragorn Ranger Swords. Do you want to send me one for free so I can do a review? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no. Because they said, thank you for the email, and then they said nothing else. So I'm like, oh, fine. It would have been nice to get it for free, but I guess if you're going to make me buy it, I'll buy it. Because I'm just not big enough to get swords for free on the regular, you know? But that's okay. I'm having a good time. And also, one of the other reasons I started a YouTube channel, do not take tax advice from me. Do not take tax advice from me. Talk to a professional. But one of the reasons I started a YouTube channel is because you can put an LLC for your YouTube channel. And then if you buy things for the channel, you can write it off as a business expense. So because I have a sword YouTube channel, when I buy swords, I am calling it a business expense. And I have talked to a tax consultant, accountant person, whatever you want to call them, to make sure that I'm doing everything on the up and up. I have somebody else do my taxes for me because I hate doing taxes. So you can do that. Although if you don't make any money, you can only do it for a couple of years before the government basically says, no, this is just a hobby. This is not a business. You cannot write anything else off. But if you can have a couple of years of write-offs, why not? Like I said, talk to a tax professional before doing this. No, you're all good by the sword. I know. So funny. Yes, I am live, just reading past live chat. Oh my gosh. Here, right now I'm ripping up paper. I don't know if you can see it or not. So we're gonna rip this one up, and then we're gonna continue writing names. I think we are getting to the point where there's enough. Originally, there was only like 6 people. The very first time I did this, and the video is still on the channel. You could go find this somewhere. The first time that I gave away a sword, I was a $30 medieval sword that some people did buy because it's $30. You're probably getting your money's worth. And I think that's still the case. You're probably still getting your money's worth for $30, or it's like 35 or something like that. And I originally bought it for a white elephant, and then I ended up not going to that white elephant. And so then I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with this? So I thought it'd be fun to give away to subscribers. But so that was probably a year or so ago now. And that was back when I had like 100 subscribers or something. I don't remember. And so I thought nobody was going to comment on that video. And then I got like 6 whole comments. I was like, whoa. So that one was only 6 people. That one went really quick. And now we're at a little bit more than that. So I might have to find a better way to do this in the future. It's so funny. My brother, going back to my brother and his small little YouTube channel. I say small. That is a joke. My brother does very well. But when to celebrate his subscribers, he started doing sprinkles where he would he would get sprinkles, and I think one time he made a cake with it and put sprinkles on top. One time I think he just had like a bucket of sprinkles. I don't know what he was doing with them. And then one time he had to get a whole bunch of sprinkles. We just had, I remember it being very expensive to ship that many sprinkles to our house. And he just like filled a bathtub up with sprinkles and then like jumped on them on the trampoline and some other stuff like that. I don't think he does sprinkle videos anymore. I'm going to have to tell him, be like, hey, when was the last time you did a milestone with sprinkles? I think you need to bring it back. Maybe if we start a petition, if enough of us do it, he'll do it. That'll be fun. David, that's so funny. What's weird to me, so it's interesting that swords are seen now as like such a niche interest in a niche subject. Because swords have been used, they were like, if you put history onto a timeline, the majority of history involves swords. And it was not like a nerdy thing, it was not like a weird thing, it was like I don't know. It was like a sophisticated thing or a manly thing or and so it's so funny to me that now it's like, you're into swords? That's weird. And back then it would not have been. For most of history, it would not have been weird. And I feel like most people, when they're like, oh, what do you like to do for fun or whatever? I'm like, I like swords. And I'm like, that's weird. Why don't you like football? It's like, I'm not saying I don't like football, but I don't that much. But it's like, you can have more than one interest. You can also enjoy swords and football. I'm sure there are people out there who do that. I personally just think gymnastics is a better sport than football. That's right. I said it. Also, I occasionally like doing videos where I give just like a, what's the word? I just make a rage statement essentially to get interest and just to see what people think. It's just to be funny, really. Like I did that with Thorin Oakenshield sword, the one that's like a falchion and a lot of people love. To be fair, I don't think it looks that good. I think it is because I just like long swords. Now I'm not that big a fan of falchions. And so I was like, yeah, that's the worst sword. Like, hot take, that is the worst sword in all of Lord of the Rings. And I kind of actually think that. So I like doing the occasional hot take. And I was thinking about doing another one where I say, hot take, the worst sword in all of fantasy is, and I'm going to say the Conan the Barbarian sword. What do you guys think? I know some people will get riled up at that. I didn't watch the Conan movies until I was like in my late 20s. And I actually enjoyed them a lot, but I still think those swords are trash. And that is based off of the experience of me having a Conan the Barbarian sword and it being totally unusable. And even the usable ones are still pretty unusable. Oh no, BC Weapons International's in the chat. I didn't see him. It's so funny because he just got a whole bunch of Conan the Barbarian swords. Sorry, BC Weapons International. Oh gosh. Zach, yes, I do have the Cold Steel Machete Gladius sword. That is before. This is before I was subscribed to Sensei Bensei. He does a lot of stuff with meteor hammers. He's very talented at that. And I was like, you know what would be fun? Swinging. I came to this conclusion all on my own. This was without me seeing anybody else do this. And then I was like, I'm going to go do this. Oh, no. I saw Blumenech. I saw Blumenech do it with a greatsword. And I was like, that looks like fun. I want to try that. And I was like, I'm going to try it with a smaller sword first before I use a big one. Because like that seems like it's going to be more fun and usable. And I did it with the Cold Steel Gladius Machete. And then so many people are like, learn from Sensei Bensei. This is a terrible idea. And I was just like, who the heck is that? And then I searched him up and saw him do that. He did it with a Chinese Jin. And he is very good with meteor hammers. And he does all sorts of tricks where he'll cross his body, which I was like, if I'm doing this with a sword, I'm not going to do anything that's across the body, especially backwards. where you can't see it and you're crossing your body. And so he does a backward swing. He crosses his body, and the sword just hits him right in the Achilles, and looked like it cut him pretty bad. I'm looking at this name right now. I'm like, uh-oh. I hope I wrote that right. Hopefully you don't do a drawing. And I'm like, and I pull a name and everyone's like, who the heck is that? That would be awkward. Oh yeah, Tone Deaf is a very good cutter. Oh, here's another video that I want to do. At some point, I want to do a video where I'm in the studio. I have my face on one side and the YouTube's on the other side, and I just want to go through and look at some of the other channels that do backyard cutting and kind of give them a shout out and talk about some of the cuts that they're doing. Because one, I think that would be fun to just talk about people cutting and what they're doing, stuff like that. But then also I think it'd be nice to give people a shout out, because I remember when I was getting started, lots of people gave me shout outs, which was really nice. Gargoyle Blades gave me a shout out. Armored Sweatpants gave me a shout out. Super appreciated that. Yeah, so there's been a lot of people who've been really accepting and nice and uplifting in this community. So it'd be nice to give some shout outs back to people. And then also the other thing is, I have found, and this is just from my experience doing gymnastics, that I'll give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. But if people are not super familiar with the sport and they see a trick and then they see another trick, sometimes they cannot distinguish between the two tricks. And here's a perfect example. So in gymnastics, you will have times where you do flips, and you'll have times where you twist in those flips. Okay, and there's different types. The most basic type is you'd call like a full twist, where you do it in a laid out position, which is where you're like in a straight body. You could do it in a tucked position, which is where you're in like a little ball. But the most common one that you'll see, well, yeah, I'd say probably the most common one that you see is in the laid out position. Although I feel like on high bars and rings, they do a lot of tucked ones. Anyways, not the point. But if for people who are not used to watching gymnastics, like I remember I was watching the Olympics and I saw there was like one person who did like a double twist. And then there was another person who did like a 2.5 twist, and another person who did a triple twist. And for someone, even for me, who's done gymnastics a long time and coached for a long time, if you're watching people twist really fast, sometimes you have to go back and rewatch it to see exactly what they did, because it's hard to count. But typically, like if you're used to it, you're like, okay, yep, I saw they just did a double, or yep, they just did 3, or yep, they just did whatever. But for people who have never watched before, all they see is they did a flip and a twist. And so I remember I had some family like, these guys are all doing the same move. That's what they're saying. Like, these guys are all doing the same move. I'm like, what? And they couldn't tell the difference between the different flips and twists that they were doing. They just all looked the same to them. I'm like, no, these are not the same move. Some of these are substantially harder than others. Like a full, and it's so funny because for people who haven't watched before, a single twist might look the same as a triple twist. And they might just be like, wow, that one guy twisted a lot faster. It's like, oh no, what one guy did was substantially harder than what the other guy did. But for someone who hasn't tried it ever, they have no way of knowing that because they have no experience with it, and it's hard for them to watch what they're seeing. So all that to say, this is my long tangent, to say that I think that same thing happens with cutting a little bit. That if someone has never tried cutting before, they'll look at one type of diagonal cut, and then they'll look at another type of diagonal cut, and they'll be like, yeah, that was the same thing. And so it's like, I think that would be fun to go look at this and be like, okay, this is this type of double cut. And this is what I think about this type of cut. And, oh yeah, this is a static cut. This is a whatever cut. I think that would be fun to do. And hopefully for people who haven't tried cutting before, they'll get a better understanding of what they're watching. And hopefully an appreciation for some of the cool cuts that some of these other channels are doing. Yeah. So in case you guys, for anybody who is watching this after the fact and wants to see some cool cuts, By the Sword does cutting videos, Armored Sweatpants does cutting videos, Gargoyle Blade does cutting videos. There's a few people that I haven't seen in the chat yet that do cutting videos like Eric. I'm gonna have to, maybe I'll just link a whole bunch of channels at the bottom. Eric does some crazy cutting videos. Tempest Blaze does some cutting videos, and they all do a great job. And so for me, I always have a good time just watching. So those are some people to check out. All right, let me just see if there's any questions on here that I need to catch up on real quick. Sabersmith. How much experience do you have reviewing Sabersmith? Well, if that was for me, 0. I don't think I reviewed anything from Sabersmith. If they're hard to wield, get stronger. That is my motto. Dude, it was so funny. That's what some of the people were saying when I got the that one sword from the Hobbit, or a Thorin Oakenshield sword, because that one was like, it's not particularly long, but it was like 3.5 pounds or a little over that, something like that. And it's not the heaviest sword I've used, but for whatever reason, that is the most uncomfortable one to swing around. And there's some people like, get stronger. I'm like, I am literally trying. All right. Let's continue writing some names real fast. Oh, yes. There's an Addicted to Blades. Oh, man. I left him out when I was talking about good channels with good cutting. Addicted to Blades also does a cutting video. I feel like he does at least one every single day. So if you need your daily dose of cutting. Addicted to Blades. He probably is addicted to blades. I don't know. Something about him just gives me that vibe. Yes, Eric. Yeah, he. There are some cuts that I didn't even think about doing. They just, I don't know. I've never thought about doing something like that in my life. And then I saw Eric do some stuff, and I'm like, what? And then I had to go try out some of that stuff. So, like the paper cutting test that is now like where the floating paper test, where you stick a magazine piece of paper on a sword and then cut it. That has now become a standard test for my swords out of the box, and that is because of Eric. And he makes it look so easy. It's crazy. I still need to get the I need to get a smooth cut to thrust. I have got a cut to thrust, but it wasn't smooth. It looked like I was flailing a little bit. I need to get a smooth cut to thrust on a floating piece of paper. And then I still haven't gotten a good cut to thrust double cut. I have, however, let me pat myself on the back for a second. I have, however, gotten a spinning double cut. And as far as I know, I haven't seen anyone. I'm sure there are other people who have done it, but I haven't seen anybody else do it. I'm not going to look that hard either. Yeah, KF1 does. Yes, that's another one. Yes, if you go back, look at KF1's channel as well. Oh, and oh man, see, now I'm realizing how many people I've left out of this. KF1 has a good channel for cutting. Space Ghost has a good channel for cutting. Who else? I'm sure I'm missing other people. Tone Deaf. Yes, they all have good channels for cutting. I wish Space Ghost and KF1 would post more, because they also are very talented. Yeah, okay, so Timberwolf, I don't think I've used any of their stuff, so I will have to check them out. So let me make a note. Well, let me go back and find that comment, because sometimes I can't see the live comments after the video closes. Sabersmith. All right, let me just make a note. Check out Sabersmith. All right. All right, we will be doing that. Let me write a couple of names real fast. made that name way too big. Oh well. Michael just got a little bit of a little bump. Kells K. Smart Crafts. September for a Jedi. Interesting. Stitched the Doll. Yes, I'm reading these out loud because it helps me write them, I found out. We'll just do a couple more and then I'll check to see if anybody asked any questions. Jesse. Okay, another question I have for the chat. So I'm not sure if you guys have known this because I haven't done any of these videos in a hot minute because I was at the point where I'm like, you could never have too many swords, and so then I went and got a whole backlog of swords, and then now I'm at the point where I feel like I don't have too many swords, but now I feel like I don't have enough time to make videos of all the swords. So now I'm just trying to pump out as many sword reviews as I can real fast to make sure that I don't just have a bunch of boxes sitting around. But what I did in the past, I did some sword related skits where I still tried to include cutting, and I did a series of D&D skits where I was like how each character class would use a sword. And so I want to do another series of that where I talk about how each character class from D&D would teach a HEMA class, or they would teach like a fencing class or a sword fighting class, like what they would focus on. I think that would be fun and funny. But I don't know, some people might not be interested in skits. They might just want the reviews. So I'm curious on what your guys' opinions are. If we would like the skits or we would pass on the skits. And then also talking about how Tone Deaf would be very fun to see on a live. And so By the Sword, he actually did a live session where he did cutting. And I saw that and I was like, I should try that. And that actually is nerve-wracking, I found out. Although I probably should do another one. I just need to make sure that I'm not getting those cuts for reviews, because when you're doing a live session and cutting at the same time, I don't know how it was for you, John. You can say, but for me, I was only half thinking about the cuts and half thinking about the live stream. So it was a little, yes, or Chris, thank you, Zach. Difficult to focus. They have a, quotes, functional father sword. I found a video of you on YouTube from 13 years ago. Oh no, is it just me hula hooping? I did not post that video, by the way. Yes, there is a video of me there's actually a couple of videos from me from a while ago. There's one, if you just look up my name, there's just a video of me hula hooping in a store from like a long time ago, back when I was probably a little bit more in shape. And then there's also another video of me. This is me and a friend. This also was like, this has got to be like 16 years ago or something like that, when we were younger and like, yeah, it'd be fun to make a YouTube channel, and it'll be like, I'm not 100%. We were just going to do like skits and things like that. And so we did one that we called Boom Baby Olympians at Heart. Actually, I'm curious. Hold on, let's open another tab real fast. I want to see if this is like still, but just pops up. Yep, this is us. Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess it is 13 years ago. Zach, is this the one that you saw? Oh gosh. That's a funny video. Oh man. So the whole premise of the video is that we're watching the Olympics, and then we decide that we could join the Olympics, and so then we do like a montage of us. I don't know why we thought this was a good idea to have me put on a Batman mask midway through, but we thought that was going to be funny. But so then we try like a whole bunch of different sports, and we purposely do them as bad as we can, and then at the end you just see us sitting with a whole bunch of medals, like we actually won stuff. Oh gosh, yeah. We only ever made one video. I kind of wish we had done more. Alas. Also, on a side note, just because I'm scrolling through, I'm behind the chat. By the Sword talked about how Armored Sweatpants is amazing. He has some very fun and good cutting videos on there with a katana. He also has a sweet video about a cane sword, so which at some point I need to get. So I need to get a cane sword at some point. So he has a good video about a cane sword, and then he also happens to have a whole bunch of, well, I don't know if a whole bunch of it, but he has some videos on some Lord of the Rings pipes, which I do not smoke myself, but I always just like pipes, and they're Lord of the Rings themed and stuff. So I was like, oh, how could you not like that? Gargoyle Blades does also a lot of stuff with Japanese swords, and he has a lot of really good informational videos that I've learned a bunch from. BC Weapons International. Okay, let's give him a shout out real quick. He has decided. So wait, BC Weapons International. You should tell me: is this a project that you made for yourself? Is this a project that you made for somebody else? Because I know that Matt has talked about creating a My Little Pony katana before, but you actually did go create a My Little Pony katana, and I followed you through the process a little bit, and I think that you said you bought like 5 or 6 different katana. So you bought a bunch of different katana to use their parts to make this My Little Pony katana. So if you guys want to see that finished product, holy smokes, it looks like a My Little Pony katana. Yeah, Darth Daffodil, that is a good idea. Doing a video on budget swords that can be purchased from Amazon specifically. Yeah, I should do that. And that's actually one of the reasons I was interested in Fidestisen, because they are on Amazon. And so the Crusader longsword that I got, which I still don't know if I would recommend, because I had a terrible time cutting with it. And then afterwards I was like, is this just a me thing? So I went and looked online, and by the way, this is just I bought the sword without seeing anyone else's reviews on it or anything else. It was just like, oh, I want to see if Amazon has any good swords, and then they had the sword, which is now way more common, with the pommel that has that little brass coin in it. At the time, I think they were the first ones to have that. At least they were the first ones I saw that had it. But now you can see that same pommel on Romance of Men, and there are a few other makers that also have that same pommel. But I originally bought it because of that pommel. I was like, this is so cool. And then I tried cutting with it, and it didn't go well. So then I looked up. I was like, oh man, does anybody else have this? And it turned out that Kyle from Alientude also had gotten that sword, and he also had issues cutting with it. And apparently the blade was like slightly offset from the handle, and so edge alignment was really hard, is what he said on his. So I don't know if I could recommend that one, to be honest, unless they make some changes, which they did. I did talk. It was so funny because they saw my review, and I guess they felt bad that I hated it, and they said, we will give you a refund. And I thought that was really nice of them. So I don't know if I'd recommend that one, because they did say that they were going to make some changes on that one. I don't know if they ever did or not. But and then that is when Zach was like, oh, I have another sword from them. That is their arming sword, and their arming sword is only $165. And so far that one has been working really well. Oh yeah, that is the other thing, Eric. It's so funny because most of Eric's videos will be him in his kitchen cutting. And it doesn't look like he has particularly high ceiling. So he has like a small margin of error before he starts destroying stuff in his house. And he just goes for it. Oh yeah, Philip Martin. Oh yeah, he's an OG. You know, see, Brigman, that is a great question on recommendations for good sword carriers or sword frogs. I actually don't know. And this is I had a whole section in my last video that I ended up cutting because I felt like it was long, that I think some of these budget sword makers should stop adding belt. This is, I don't know how, the reason why I ended up cutting this one was is too long, but also I think other people might not have the same feelings, but I think like Romance of Men, Fidestisin, Swordier, some of these Ronin Katana, these budget sword makers, I think it might be better for them to stop spending money and like extra money adding to the sword with sword belts. Because man, one of the sword belts I got from, well, the one I got from Fidestisin just like broke super easy. One of the ones I got from Ronin Katana, I have no idea how that was supposed to be put together or worn or used. And so I think it might just be easier to say, hey, stop spending money on extra belts and loops and things like that that don't work that well, and just sell separately a nice sword frog. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. Like if we can make the swords a little bit cheaper or keep the swords the same price by getting rid of some of the extra bobs that don't really do much and put that into making like the grip a little nicer, or put that into making the pommel a little nicer, like make the fittings like slightly better or something like that, or improve quality control. I don't know. Keep the swords the same price, make them slightly better by getting rid of some of the extra things, and then just sell separately a good sword frog or a good belt system. Honestly, I think that'd be a good idea. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, I can see how swords are like tattoos. Very addictive. All right, David, thanks for saying you like the skits. Okay, yes, Zach, thanks. You did a live today in the snow? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so funny. I'm sure people have had this experience where somebody is watching you drive all of a sudden, and then you get hyper aware of what you're doing, and then your driving gets worse, or somebody is watching you type, and then your typing gets worse. It was like the exact same thing, where all of a sudden I'm like having a good time, I'm on camera, I get ready for my first cut, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody is watching this. Like, what if I have a terrible cutting day and I can't cut anything? Thankfully, it was not absolutely terrible, but it was definitely not my best cutting day. Although I think some of that will just come with practice. So that's actually probably a good reason to do it more. Especially, I haven't done any cutting competitions, but it's the exact same thing where you're in not exactly an arena, but you're live in front of people cutting and they're watching you. So yeah, maybe that's actually, maybe cutting live would be good practice to mentally prepare yourself for that. Hey, Zach, there you are. Ah, yes. David, here you are. David, oh man, dude. David, sorry to hear about the health issues, the surgeries and stuff. That does not sound fun. By the sword, are you being serious? Did you have a stroke 2 weeks ago? What? Dang. I did not know that. That's crazy, dude. I mean, thankfully, I haven't had any crazy health issues, but the one health thing I have is that sometimes at night I will just stop breathing, and that's obnoxious. So I do need to get a sleep study done, and I probably just have to bite the bullet and get a CPAP. It makes me sound very old. He took the. Oh gosh, he cut the glass. um. So Darth Daffodil, that is a good question. I think it probably depends on the maker and it probably depends on the sword, but I would definitely reach out to them. Like, if you have a sword that is not as functional, like, what's the worst that can happen? I suppose you could trade it in and get one that's even worse, but I feel like you probably won't. I don't know. Have you tried cutting with it? Because if you try cutting with it and it works, then I would just be like, it works, but and because then you might get something worse. I don't know. But yeah, if it's really obnoxious and hard to use, and it was like that out of the box, then I would yeah, I would see if you could switch it. Yes. Yeah, I know. I just need to get the sleep study done. I just need to bite the bullet and do it. Oh, look, we're at David's part in the chat. Let's go. Or not in the chat, in the comment section. Ooh, Stitch the Doll was being sneaky. They did more than one comment. Very sneaky of them. ASA Punk at South Finland. Oh my goodness, did we reach the end? Whew! Oh my gosh. All right, okay, we're almost there for this one. Theron Jeet. RC Showman. Darth Hermes? Germans? Yes, so the reason why I put the potatoes in there was specifically because KF1 asked, hey, can you put a potato in there? So we did that for KF1 specifically. He wanted to see. I'm not 100% sure. Because my assumption was that if it was going through a leather shoe, it was going to go through a potato as well. And it did. So a couple of other people have asked me to put meat in there. And just because I haven't thought about it when I've been out of store getting meat, I haven't done it yet, but that is something I'll have to do in the near future. All right, let's. Oh no, we went too far. All right, shorts. Let's see. All right,
This is actually a sword.
Let's pause this. All right, let's go to the comments. Speaking of KF1, there he is. Okay, thank you to a person who watched the title and knows that they're an ocean away. On this one, I must have said that you should say that you're interested because that is what people did. Ship off fools. I don't know, for the other YouTube creators in here, I don't know if anyone ever tries to get super political in your guys's. I thought of that. I'm not assuming that this guy is trying to get political, but it just reminded me that every once in a while I will have someone who tries to get super political in the comments. I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to have a good time. I'm trying to have everyone come together and enjoy Swords together. You know, not trying to get people to hate each other in the comments. That's my thought on it. Oh, here's another one. Oh gosh. So I was naming off YouTube channels before. I Swing Swords. He also is very good at cutting. And I have to say, so he posted a video recently of his. I think he just did like a montage of his best cuts for the previous year of 2025, and that guy has some of the smoothest false edge cuts I've ever seen. And this is how I would rate. So, in my experience, and maybe this is just what you've practiced with more, but in my experience, false edge cuts are harder to get nice than true edge cuts. And then rising cuts, in my experience, are harder to get right than the downwards diagonal ones. And he's doing some rising false edge cuts that are just very smooth. The AK Spud again. Okay, the AK Spud, if you're still in the chat, actually, well, I'll do that in a second. If you're still in the chat, I would love to know. Thanks, person. I do not have 15K subs, but I appreciate the well wishes. Thank you. Back to the AK Spud. Out of curiosity, what part of Alaska do you live in? And are you at one of the parts where you have like 6 months of darkness and 6 months of crazy light? Is that a thing? I would love to go to Alaska at some point. Check it out. Sounds like a fun place. Most of the time I get really nice comments. Every once in a while I do get people hating on me, which depending on the day, I guess I'll have mixed feelings about. But I do think it'd be fun to go back and look at, like, do a video of like best trolling comments or something like that. So if you guys would be interested in like something like that, I think that would be kind of fun. I remember one of the comments I thought was the funniest was I was doing a video with the sword that I got from Nick, the custom Danish greatsword. That's maybe a little short to be a greatsword, but anyways, besides the point. I was doing a cutting video with it, and one of the comments just said AI, and I just thought that was so funny because yes, there's so much AI stuff on here, and usually you can tell by if you're not 100% sure, you can look back at the channel and see some of the other stuff they've done, and then it usually becomes pretty apparent if it's AI or not. But it's like, bro, this whole channel is me cutting stuff with swords. And it wasn't even the first time I'd done some of those cuts. So I just thought that was very funny. And I took it as a compliment, actually, where he must have thought it looked so good that it couldn't possibly have been real. And that was on one of the zero distance cuts, which, to be fair, because that sword has a thinner profile, I was not expecting it to cut as well as it did. And whoa. Oh, also, by the sword, you said that Nick was going to sell you a sword. I would love to know. Can you give us a sneak peek and tell us like what it is that you're getting from him? Nathaniel Howard. C. Brigman. Bridgman. I'm guessing that's the last name, right? I probably pronounced that wrong. Sword Science. Dude, That's a good name. Comes with alliteration. Does this guy have a channel? 104 subscribers? We're just going to subscribe. See what stuff he posts. How do I unclick out of this now? Here we go. He will add Archbishop of the Noodle. Again, good job. Oh yeah, jinxed. Yeah, my goal for 2025 was to get to 1,000 subs. And so I'm very appreciative of everyone subbing. Thank you very much. All right, let me look at some comments real quick. Oh, Timberwolf, I didn't know you were a writer. That's very fun. I have a couple of ideas for books that I would love to write. Maybe I'll tell you guys some of the ideas. But yeah, so I have written well, I have some ideas for some like larger like novel-sized books, but at this point I've only written some kids books. And the reason why I wrote kids books is because I have kids. And I wanted to get something. I got so tired. I got so tired of reading Brown Bear or some of these other books. They're just so boring. I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, okay, I want to keep reading to my kids, but I'm not reading Brown Bear ever again. And so I was like, I'm gonna look and see what cool sword books they have for kids. And they had none. There were no sword books for kids at the time. They just didn't exist. And so I was like, what? That can't be possible. And so I looked around. I didn't see any that I thought were good. And so I'm like, I'm going to have to remedy this. And so in case you guys are wondering, I have spent a total of probably like $7,000 or $8,000 making the children's swords books that I've made. I made 3 of them. And most of that money goes into paying an artist to draw the pictures for it. So yeah. But in my mind, totally worth it. So have I made my money back on those? No, I definitely have not. But do I feel like I've improved the world? Yes. And I'm probably going to make 1 or 2 more. So I did one that was just called Why Swords Are Awesome. I felt like I had to do that one first because I feel like one of the first questions you get is like, if you tell people you like swords, like why? Why do you like swords? Why are you like that? And so I felt like I had to make a book explaining that swords are just awesome. And then the second one, I wanted to do an alphabet book because I found out that there was a sword for every letter. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe nobody has done this yet. I have to do it. And so I did it. An S is for swords, and so are all the letters of the alphabet. And I thought that one was very fun. And then so those were like my basic ones. And then I was like, you know what? I want to start looking at swords, like sword legends, and start doing those. So I started looking up sword legends. And one of the ones I found that was pretty interesting was the legend of Saint Galgano, which he's a Catholic saint. I'm not Catholic myself, but I thought the legend was so interesting that I wanted to make a book about it. And I think after studying the legend, I think that this is probably where the legend of the Sword and the Stone originated from, would be my guess. Because if you read some of the original Arthurian legends, he doesn't pull a sword from the stone. It is given to him by the Lady of the Lake. It's not even given to him by Merlin. There's like another sorceress person out there, Lady of the Lake, and she gives him Excalibur, and she also gives him the scabbard, and she tells him, so like, by the way, the scabbard is actually more important than the sword, because if you have the scabbard, it somehow protects you from getting hurt or whatever. And he obviously likes the sword more, as I think all of us would, and so he like misplaces his scabbard and somebody takes it or whatever, and then that's one of the reasons he ends up basically dying. But then he's like put in a cave or something like that. I don't know. And then it's foretold that he'll eventually come again. Very interesting. But there is no sword in the stone in the original Arthurian legend. So I'm like, where on earth does this come from? And so there's this legend of the legend of Saint Galgano, where he is like walking, and basically an angel appears to him and says, "Hey, you need to turn your life around." And he says, "It would be easier for me to stab through this like rock in the ground, this boulder, than for me to turn my life around." And the angel's like, "Go ahead." And so he stabs into this rock, and his sword just like sinks into it. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And so it is like a sword in the stone. And then what I thought was really interesting is apparently, and I don't know how you guys feel about miracles or in particular Catholic miracles. I don't know. Again, this is not. I'm not trying to talk religion or politics, but this there is still a sword in the stone to this day that they've dated to like the 13th century. Of course, I mean, is it possible that he just went and found a crack and put it in there? Yeah, I suppose so, right? But it's fun. Think whatever you want. I think it's fun, and so that's the idea is that he just like stabbed through this boulder with his sword, and then they like built a little chapel around it, and you can still go visit this sword in the stone to this day, which I think is just really cool. And so I was like, oh man, now I want to go to Italy. It's in I think it was like Monteseppi, and so you can go to Italy and just see this sword in the stone. So I was like, oh, that's very cool. So I was like, oh, I feel like I got to write a book about that. So I did. And then some of the other ideas that I have is I would love to. I think my next one that I want to do is about the Sword of Damocles, which is, if you guys have heard that one I can't remember if it's like a Greek or Roman legend, but the idea is, I have to look now, but the idea is there's this king, and he has a friend, and his friend's like, one day he's like, I would love to be king for a day or something like that, and the king's like, okay, do it. And so they switch roles for a day. And like partway through, like the guy is loving it, he's having a great time, but then partway through he looks up and he sees this sword hanging over him by like a single thread. And then he's like freaking out, like, oh my goodness, like what is this? What's happening? This is not good. And the king explains like, oh yeah, as a king, you basically always have a sword over your head. And it's like, what the idea is, like, whenever you have like power, you're governing or things like that, you just have to always know that you have enemies and you're never really 100% safe. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting like tale or legend or whatever. But since it's a historical sword legend, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to make that. And then I feel like I also should make one about King Arthur. I don't know. So I kind of want to make some books that are about, sword legends and things like that. I think that would be fun. And yes, in case you guys are wondering, almost all of these are self-published, even though both my mom and my brother have been regularly published. The reason why I'm going self-published is because all these people hate the idea that I'm making weapon books for kids. I'm like, calm down, people. Everybody loves swords. But yeah, no publisher wanted to touch it because it's about weapon. Oh, Greek, thank you, by the sword. But yeah, because it's weapon books for kids. And yeah, they didn't like that. I am actually local to Arizona myself, but the weather in the winter is great. So while By the Sword is out battling blizzards, I'm just chilling. I think it's like 70 degrees today or something like that. It's great weather for cutting. So just writing some names real quick. I do want us to get out of here eventually. I do appreciate everyone who's here and hanging out. R.M. Regal. Darth Germs. Zeus. D.A.G. Meyer. Gamer Dude. One of the questions that I thought was interesting from the live stream that By the Sword did yesterday, I think Matthew Jensen asked this, and I'm trying to remember if he actually shared how his wife feels about him buying swords. But the question was, how does your significant other feel about your hobby of like buying and owning a bazillion swords? And my wife has seemed pretty cool with it, all things considering. She doesn't necessarily want me to buy more, but also she's not. I think she's kind of neutral about it, where she's not enabling like, yeah, let's do it, but she's also not like -14 yesterday. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'd make it. I'd have to start wearing shoes probably. It sounds terrible. David, it's 81. Chilly for Florida. Oh my goodness. 21. Woo. Yeah. Yeah. John. Dude, it's going to be so funny because some people are going to be like, all right, I want to see if I won. And then they're going to see how long this live stream is, and they're going to be like, what? I bet there's going to be some people like, this is way longer than the 30 seconds I was willing to watch. I'm sure there will be people like that. Nice. Zach Swords, double entries. Well, it'll actually be triple once we do the live stream one. All right, we're just going to flip the page and keep writing, and then we'll rip all these up in a second. We're almost to the bottom. Elliot Wright. Eric Cyan. 420. Swords that I would love to get. At some point, I really want to get a Jin. I saw that Swordier just made a Gladius. And to be honest, I've been looking for a good Gladius for a while. And so, I mean, Swordier is pretty cheap, and all of the swords I've gotten from them so far have been decent. Like, I've been happy with. The only thing I would say about the Swordier swords is on the first one that I got, the tip looked pretty thin. That was for their hand and a half one. But literally for every other one, it's like I haven't had any issues with it. So that's probably going to be my next Swordier purchase, is going to be that Gladius. Because I would love to have a good Gladius. I hope Swordier makes a Falcata or something in the future. Reed Cook. Queen of the Fae. Oh, look. See, look at this. KF1. Bravo for the potato. See, there we go. Okay, well, sorry to Jaren. Jaren, it's not actually a zombie tools. I think I actually said that in the... Oh, yes. Okay, I did say I didn't want to trick people, make people think I was giving away a zombie tools. You know what, David? That is a good point. I don't think I've asked them to make a custom piece. The problem is, if I ask them to make a Falcata and they're like, okay, what are the dimensions? I'd be like, I have no idea. You know what? Maybe I got to talk to Andy. I got to talk to Andy from Daltrix and be like, hey, what are the good dimensions for a Falcata? I'm sure he knows. He has measured so many swords. I know he's done a bunch of Chinese ones. Yeah, that's a good point. BC Weapons International. At some point, I will probably just save and get some higher end pieces like Albions and things like that. The problem is that because I'm kind of in the review mindset right now, there's so many new budget swords that I want to try, and so it's like, well, do I save up and get a high end piece that, and because in my mind, my thought is like people who are buying swords are probably going to be, I think the majority of people are going to be looking more in the budget realm, and because I think that's just what the majority of people can afford a budget sword, and not as many people are going to be able to afford a high end piece. So part of me is like, okay, what would be most helpful is probably doing multiple budget reviews as opposed to a high end piece review. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe people would actually enjoy seeing some higher end stuff too. I don't know. It's an interesting line to walk. Sinister Swordsman. I really like that name. Oh, look, it's Darth Daffodil again. A freak. It's so funny that it's just like one, I can't believe this guy is roasting me for not wearing shoes, and two, his name is A Freak. I'm being roasted by a freak. But I'm glad he stuck around. Evil 10 6 3 1 4. Okay, yeah. So this is an interesting comment, and this is actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about in this idea video that I'm thinking of. So there's this guy here. He says viewers should just buy the real Difos instead. It'll last longer. I mean, maybe it will last longer. In my opinion, my Zombie Tools sword is not in here. I actually have 4 different Zombie Tool swords that are the real thing, and I have a couple of videos where I compare the Zombie Tools ones to the Amazon ones, and the Zombie Tools ones are nicer in my opinion. They're also in some cases literally 10 times the price, and so I understand the thought that like you should buy the original to support them because they came up with the idea. I do understand that thought. But also, at the same time, my other thought is, does buying one preclude you from buying the other, right? So I have bought in both, and just because I bought one didn't make me want to not buy another one. Like I think it's very I think it's very rare, for someone to buy a sword and then say, I will never buy another sword again, or because I bought this sword, this prevents me from buying any other sword. I don't think that's how most people operate. There's probably one person. There's probably a couple people who are like, yes, I just want to have a sword to say I have a sword, and then I'll buy one and never buy another one again. But I think that's probably more rare. I think in most instances, it's people saying, hey, I want to buy a sword. This is the amount of money I have now. And then when I have more money, I'll upgrade later. And so I think by having more cheaper options, I think that just gets more people into it. And I think those people will continue to buy. I don't know. That's my thought. I don't know. Let the high-end makers come to you. I don't know if they're going to look at my channel and be like, yep, that's the guy we want to send a sword to. Our sword costs more dollars than he has subscribers. Yeah, okay, that's a good point by the sword, right? So he bought a swordier, and then he also you bought 2 Albion mercenaries? What? It was one for use and one for display? Don't judge me. Oh, gosh. Yeah, you know what, Darth Daffodil, that is interesting. I don't know if my videos, because my channel's kind of on the smaller side, I actually don't know if the algorithm is hiding anything or not, or just promoting other stuff more. I have no idea. But I know a lot of other people have talked about it. I don't know if I'm actually big enough to have a real opinion on that yet. And so my thought is, and it's funny because Scalagrim has kind of talked about this a little bit, where he made a video and he's like, I need a reality check. I've been a douche. I think that was his like thumbnail. And I was like, okay, I didn't want to say anything, but you did sound pretty, like down in the dumps. It was hard to listen to you sometimes. And he was like, you know what? I'm just going to be happy. And I think that he's really carried that on to his recent videos. And I'm like, you know what? I think that's probably just a good perspective to have about it, is that you just enjoy swords and you enjoy the community and you enjoy the people and, you know, you just have fun. I will tell you, up to this point, I have not made a single cent on YouTube because I'm not monetized. And the reason I'm not monetized is because I don't have enough watch time yet. So, I mean, I'm just doing it for the love of the game. I'm just having a good time interacting with everyone and, you know, buying swords and giving swords away and learning about swords. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. If you don't buy two, how do you know if they're good? That's so funny. That's hilarious. I actually probably should look at the Albion site and see, because you know what? I think I probably just have to, because I feel like I'm kind of known for having a lot of 18Cs. I feel like my first Albion purchase is going to have to be one of the 18Cs. I really like the look of the Alexandria, but it has a wheel pommel on it, and wheel pommels are sometimes just so terrible. That's like, I wouldn't want to spend that amount of money and then get that sword and be like, yep, I hate it. So I probably would get the Principe. I mean, there's a lot of good 18Cs out there. I only have like 5, so I need to get more. The way, in case you guys are wondering, this is a little bit of a joke, but also a little bit serious. My experience with 18Cs is also kind of my experience with the Cybertruck, where the first time I saw an 18C, I was like, that looks so weird. Because if you just see it on paper, like, it's so thick at the bottom, and typically the handles are a little bit shorter. Like, you would think that it's an arming sword, at least like if you just see a picture. And then you see it in person, you're like, whoa, that's so fat. And so it's like, I know there are a lot of people who look at it and go like, oh, that's like a weird looking, it's kind of like an ugly sword. And that's kind of how I saw it, like how I was feeling the first time I saw it. I was like, ugh, I don't know if I actually like it. And then the more that I saw it, the more that I liked it. That's kind of how I feel about the Cybertruck. Like, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a hideous thing. And then the more I see it, I'm like, it's kind of growing on me. Don't judge me if I buy a Cybertruck in the future. But as of right now, my wife is not on board with that purchase. She's like, we could buy a house for the same price as a Cybertruck. Okay, we're at the end stretch of the comments. Okay, I'm gonna go through. Ooh. This part may be a little bit quieter because I'm going through the past comments now and just making sure that I got everyone who is here to add. Scroll. I can just imagine somebody joining right now and they're just watching me write and they're like, what on earth is this? On a side note, I was scrolling through YouTube, as one does, and I saw this guy. He was, I think his YouTube channel is Do Hard Things, and his goal was to do 5 push-ups, and then the next day add 5, so to do 10, and then the next day add 5, and then just keep going for a whole year. And his goal was to do it without coming down, so he could stay in a push-up position, but he couldn't like rest. And so at the end of the year, he did a live stream, and he actually did multiple live streams. So at the end of the year, he did the live stream of him doing 1,825 push-ups. And I was like, holy smokes. And so I now have the goal. I'm not going to try and get to 1,825, but I am going to try and get to 300. So yesterday I did 140. Today I have to do 145. That's going to be miserable. But at some point, I think I should also do a video. It's not going to be nearly as impressive as his, but just do a video of me doing push-ups. There'll be a short. It'll go with my getting in shape videos, you know? Almost done. Almost done. We're getting there. Did we get everyone? I think we might have gotten everyone. Yes, we will respond to you, Kakashimo, if you get it. Oh. I think that's the 3rd entry for Darth Jermiz. Yeah, some of you guys got 3 entries, so I hope, obviously it's randomized, so anyone could end up getting it, but obviously I'm biased, and I hope that it goes to, you know, one of the people that's in the community and uplifting and such. Swords are not addictive. I only own 9. Oh, nice. $17 last month. Very good by the sword. Very good. You could almost buy 1 whole tatami mat with that. The Albion Doge? What? I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, that's true. Matt Jensen does get a whole lot of swords, and that was I think I left on one of his videos. I left a comment asking who holds the world record for breaking the most swords, because I feel like it's got to be Matthew Jensen. Like, that guy has broken so many swords. I don't know if there's anyone else who's broken more swords than him. He should go through and check his videos and count how many he's done, but like he's got to be up there. Like, I don't even think blade makers are breaking that many swords. Like, it's got to be him. If it's not, it's got to be close. Yeah, he probably has the world record for breaking swords. He should get in the Guinness Book of World Records for sure. I wish Albion did layaway payments. Actually, it can take so long to get an Albion sword. Don't they do something like that where you can start making payments, then when you get to a certain point, they'll ship it to you or something like that? I don't know. Yeah, that's actually a good point about cross guards. I haven't done a whole lot of testing with cross guards, but typically I think so. You have this interesting dynamic with cross guards where a lot of people don't want the hassle of dealing with maintenance, and so if you want a really robust cross guard, I think you probably need to have some sort of tempered steel to have a robust cross guard. But then it's you're probably going to have a high carbon steel, and then you're going to have to take care of it and oil it and do everything else, and your hand's going to come into contact with it a lot, and it'll probably end up not looking as good over time. And so it'll be more durable for the rare circumstance there's someone's attacking you with something and you have to block with that sword. Or you can get something that looks nicer, like a brass or a bronze or a stainless steel, which is probably not going to be as durable when it comes to impacts and things like that, but will look nice, and you won't have to do maintenance. And I think even, I don't know how many historical swords had brass or bronze or things like that, but that was probably a trade-off that they were doing back then. Of course, you could probably also just get a high carbon steel and blacken it, or like blue it, so that way it doesn't rust as easily. David, I don't know if I did remove you. But if you get pulled and you do not want the sword, you can just say, and we'll pull somebody else. Or too bad, I'm sending it to you anyways. Just kidding. I will not force anyone to take the sword. All right. Okay, I'm pretty sure we have everybody. So now we just have to rip these up and then do the polling. All right, I think maybe what we'll do next time, who knows, is maybe I'll have these pre-written out. I do not know. Okay, while I'm ripping these up, I'm going to tell you guys about an idea I have for a longer book series that I'd like to do at some point. Be warned, though, every time I tell anybody this, they're always like, I don't know, Luke. Sounds like a sad book. But this is my thought. I think it would be fun to have a book series where the series starts off and the world is like all magical. And there's all sorts of mythological creatures and races and things like that, right? There's elves, there's goblins, there's orcs, there's centaurs, there's unicorns, there's whatever. I don't know. There's everything, okay? There's dwarves, there's hobbits, although for obvious legal purposes, so I don't get sued by the Tolkien estate, we'll call them something else. And the whole premise of the book will be that for some reason or another, humans have decided that the other races are dangerous to their existence. And so then they basically will, one by one, or sneakily or whatever else, they'll end up committing some sort of mass genocide and kill all the other races. And then that is why there's no longer elves and dwarves and orcs and things in our day, because they were all killed off. And on the one hand, that sounds very sad. But on the other hand, it could also explain why, our world isn't as magical, but we all still have yearnings for, a more magical past. But then also, I think what would be really fun is if you look at some of these fantasy races, they almost always are inherently better than humans in some way, right? Where if you look at an orc, typically it's maybe they're not as smart, but they're bigger and stronger in most cases. So in some cases, it's not. But you look at an elf, and it's like, they have magic and they live forever, so they should be, very skilled at warfare or whatever, right? And so then the interesting thing would be is like for the humans, they'd be like, okay, we're at an obvious disadvantage because of X, Y, and Z. So how do we overcome that and come out on top? And I think that aspect of it would be very fun to try and think like, okay, how would humans overcome an army of elves? How would humans overcome an army of orcs? How would humans do blah, 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 blah? And I think that the characteristic of humans that would make them come out on top is their adaptability. And so I think that would be just like a fun thing. I don't know. Dude, a collab live stream with multiple people cutting? Oh, dude, that would be sweet. I'd love to watch something like that. A YouTube cutting tourney? Oh my goodness. Dude, that would be so fun. That would be fun. Dude, if that was possible, that'd be crazy. An online cutting tournament? I'm thinking about how we'd be able to do that. I think you just have to tell everybody in advance what mediums to get. Like, okay, we're going to need 17 little water bottles, 3 big jugs, 2 tatami mats. And like, all right, for this one, you're going to try XYZ double cut. For this one, you're just going to do a single cut on a single bottle and see how close to a static you get. On this one, you're going to see how many cuts you can get on a single jug. I think that'd be fun. If my name comes up, send it to Gargoyle. Sounds good. Sounds good. Part of me wonders, by this sword, is there an option to do a members tier that's still free, but they then just have to go through the hassle of joining up and being members? I wonder if that's the thing that is worth doing to make sure that, because I would love to have giveaways specific to the sword community. Of course, I could always just do it and not have it randomized, right? Maybe I'll do that on the next one. Who knows? We're almost done, people. Good to know by the sword. Good to know. All right, so what do you guys think about my my book idea of humans annihilating every other race? Do we think that's too depressing, or do we think that's interesting? I think so far everyone has gone with the depressing side of things. Yeah, and then the other challenge is like, why would humans want to kill if, like, because typically it's elves are inherently good, dwarves are typically inherently good. Hobbits typically inherently good. So why would humans, assuming that you're not just making an evil race of humans that kills everyone because they're evil, which I guess I could go that route. Like the humans are the evil ones. We were the bad guys all along. That could be interesting. But I was thinking it'd be more like the humans are getting attacked by orcs or something like that. And the humans ask the elves for help. And the elves are like, no way, we're not dying for you guys. We're more important than you. Because we live forever. You guys don't. And so then after that, the humans like, okay, well, they can't be trusted to be our allies. So they're our enemies. You know, that's how I would justify the humans doing it, you know? Okay. Okay, here we are. Let me see if I can. I just make this bigger. Does this work? I don't know if you guys are seeing this or not. Maybe you're seeing a big version of my face now. All right. Well, either way, maybe you're seeing the YouTube page. No idea. All right. So here's the bucket. It's my beautiful fake Amazon Templar helm. Where's the camera? Here it is. Inside are all these papers. I'm gonna give it a shake. The moment we've all been waiting for. Drum roll, please, in the comments. As I knock over this katana. Why is my camera so high? All right. All right. Let's set this to the side. Okay. And the winner is... Hopefully I wrote this down right. Ryscan521. Ryscan521. I am going to put my email in the comments of this video and in the description after it finishes doing its thing. So, if you can send me an email of where you would like this sword to go, then I will get it to you. Then, just again, please take a picture of you with it and send it to me. That would be great. So, anyways, thank you all. No, do it. Explores the dark facet of human nature. Thank you. Oh, hey, Eric. Welcome. It's very true. Okay, so, yes, Ryan, where did that paper go? I'll have to go back and look at the video. I appreciate you guys all sticking around. I still don't know why my camera's up so high. How long has it been like this? What's happening? All right, well, it is what it is. My camera's being weird. Anyways, I think we're going to call it there. Super appreciate you guys for hanging out, and have a good one.